The Cricket in Times Square by George Selwyn. 1. Tucker. A mouse was looking at Mario. The mouse's name was Tucker, and he was sitting in the opening of an unboarded drain pipe in the subway station at Times Square. The drain pipe was his home. Back a few feet in the wall, it opened out into a pocket that Tucker had filled with bits of paper and shattered of clothes he collected. When he wasn't collecting, scrounging as he called it, or sleeping, he liked to sit at the opening of the drain pipe and watch the world go by, at least as much of the world as hurries through the Times Square subway station. Tucker finished the last few crumbs of the cookie he was eating on Ronald Dune shortbread he had found earlier in the evening, and licked up his whiskers. Such a pity, he said. Every Saturday now, for almost a year, he had watched Mario tending his father's newsstands. On weekdays, of course, a boy had to get to bed early, but over the weekends, Papa Bellini let him take his part in helping out with the family business. Far into night, Mario waited. Papa hoped that by staying open as late as possible, his newsstand might get some of the business that would otherwise have gone to the larger stands. But there wasn't much business tonight. The poor kid might as well go home, murmured Tucker Mouse to himself. He looked around the station. The bustle of the day had long since subsided, and even the nighttime crowds, returning from the theaters and movies, had vanished. Now then a person or two would come down one of the many stairs that led from the street and dart through the station. But at this hour, everyone was in a hurry to get to bed. On the lower level, the trains were running much less often. There would be a long stretch of silence. Then the mounting roar as a string of cars approached Times Square. Then a pause while it let off old passengers and took new ones. Then finally the rush of sounds as it disappeared up the dark tunnel. And the hush fell again. There was an impotence in the air. The whole station seemed to be waiting for crowds of people it needed. Tucker Mouse looked back at Mario. He was sitting on the three-legged stool behind the counter of the newsstand. In front of him, all the magazines and newspapers were displayed as neatly as he knew how to make them. Papa Bellini had made the newsstand himself many years ago. The space inside was big enough for Mario, but Mama and Papa were cramped when they each took their turn. A shelf ran along one side, and on it were a little second-hand radio, a box of Kleenex, a box of kitchen matches, a cash register, money, and an alarm clock. The cash register had one drawer which always opened. It had got stuck once with all the money the Bellins had in the world inside it. So Papa decided it would be safer ever to shut it again. When the stand was closed for the night, the money that was left there to start up the new day was perfectly safe, because Papa has also made a big wooden cover with a lock that fitted over the whole thing. Mario had been listening to radio. He switched it off. Way down tracks, he could see the lights of the shuttle train coming toward him. On the level of the station where Newsstand was, the only tracks were the ones on which the shuttle ran. That was a short train that went back and forth from Times Square to Grand Central, taking people from Subway on the west side of New York City over to lines or east. Maria knew most of conductors on the shuttle. They all liked him and came over to talk between trips. The train screeched to a stop beside the newsstand, blowing a gust of hot air from it. Only 9 or 10 people got out. Tucker watched anxiously to see if any of them stopped to buy a paper. All late papers, shouted Mario as they hurried by. Magazines. No one stopped. Hardly anyone even looked at him. Mario sank back on his stool. All evening long, he had sold 50 papers and 4 magazines. In the drain pipe, Tucker Mouse, who had been keeping count too, sighed and scratched his ear. Maria's friend Paul, a conductor of the shuttle, came to the stand. "Any luck?" he asked. "No," said Maria. "Maybe on the next train." "There's going to be less and less until morning," said Paul. Maria rested his chin on the palm of his hand. "I can't understand it," he said. "It's Saturday night too. Even Sunday papers aren't going." Brown leaned up against the newsstand. "You're up awfully late tonight," he said. "Well, I can't sleep on Sundays," said Maria. "Besides, school's out now. Mama and Papa were picking me up on the way home. They went to visit some friends. Saturday's the only chance they have." Over the loudspeaker came a voice saying, "Next train for Grand Central, track 2. "Night, Mario," Paul said. He started off toward the shuttle. Then he stopped, reached in his pocket, and flipped a $50 over the counter. Mario caught the big coin. "I'll take Sunday Times," Paul said, and picked up the newspaper. "Hey, wait," Mario called after him. "It's only 25 cents. You got quarter something. Coming." But Paul was already in the car. The door slid closed. He smiled and waved through the window. With a lurch, the train moved off, its lights glimmering away through the darkness. Tucker Mouse smiled too. He liked Paul. In fact, he liked anybody who was nice to Mario. But it was late now, time to crawl back to comfortable niches in the wall and go to sleep. Even a mouse who lives in the subway station in Times Square has to sleep sometimes. And Tucker had a big day planned for tomorrow, collecting things for his home and snapping up bits of food that fell from the lunch counters all over the station. He was just about to turn the drain pipe when he heard a very strange sound. Now Tucker Mouse had heard almost the sounds that can be heard in New York City. He had heard the rumble of the subway trains and shivered their iron wheels make when they go around a corner. From above, through the iron gills that open on the street, he had heard the trembling of the rubber tires of automobiles and hooting of their horns and howling of their brakes. And he had heard the babble of boys when the station was full of human beings, and the barking of dogs that some of them held on leashes, birds, the pignon of New York, and cats, and even the high purring of airplanes above the city Tucker had heard. But in all his days, and on all his journeys through the greatest city in the world, Tucker had never heard a sound quite like this one. Chapter 2. Maria. Maria heard the sound too. He stood up and listened instantly. The noise of the shuttle rattled off into silence. From the street above came the quiet murmur of the delayed traffic. There was a noise of rustling nothingness in the station. Still Maria listened, staring to catch the mysterious sound. And there it came again. It was like a quick stroke across the strings of a violin, or like a harp that has been plucked suddenly. If a leaf in a green forest far from New York had fallen at midnight through the darkness into thicket, it might have sounded like that. Maria thought he knew what it was. The summer before he had gone to visit his friend who lived on Long Island. One afternoon, as the low sun reached long yellow fingers through the tall grass, he had stopped beside a meadow to listen to just such a noise. But there had been many of them than a chorus. Now there was only one. Faintly it came again through the subway station. Maria slipped out of the newsstand and stood waiting. The next time he heard the sound, he went toward it. It seemed to come from one corner, next to the stairs that led up 42nd Street. Softly, Maria went toward the spot. For several minutes there was only the whispering silence. Whenever it was that was making the sound, had heard him coming and was quiet. Silently, Maria waited. Then he heard it again, rising from a pile of waste paper and soot that had blown against the concrete wall. He went down and very gently began to lift off the papers. One by one he inspected them and laid them to one side. Down near the bottom, the papers became dirtier and dirtier. Maria reached the floor. He began to feel with his hand through the dust and soot, and wagged in the crack under the refuse he found what he'd been looking for. It was a little insect about an inch long and covered with dirt. It had 6 legs, 2 long antennas on its head, and what seemed to be a pair of wings pulled on its back. Holding his discovery as carefully as his fingers could, Maria lifted the insect up and rested him in the palm of his hand. "A cricket!" he exclaimed, keeping his cupped hand very steadily. Maria walked back to the newsstand. The cricket didn't move, and he didn't make that little musical noise anymore. He just lay perfectly still as if he were sleeping or frightened to death. Mario put the Kleenex and laid the cricket on it. Then he took another and started to dust him up. Ever so softly he tapped the hard black shell, and the antennae and legs and wings, gathering the dirt that had collected on the insect, fell away. His true color was still black, but now it had bright rosy sheen. When Mario had cleaned up the crickets as much as he could, he hunted around the floor of the station for a matchbox. In a minute he found one and knocked out one end. Then he folded a sheet of Kleenex, tucked it in the box, and put the cricket in. It made a perfect bed. The cricket seemed to look like his new home. He moved around a few times and settled himself comfortably. Mario sat for a time just looking. He was happy and excited that when anyone walked through the station, he forgot to shout newspapers and magazines. Then, also to him, perhaps the cricket was hungry. He rummaged through his jacket pocket and found a piece of chocolate bar that had been left for the supper. Mario broke one of the corners and held it to the cricket on the end of his finger. Casually, the insect lifted his head to the chocolate. He seemed to smell it at a moment, then took a bit. A shiver of pleasure went Mario as the cricket ate from his hand. Mama and Papa Belenes came up the stairs from the lower level of the station. Mama was a short man, a little stouter than she liked to admit, who with and got red face when she had climbed the step. Papa was tall, somewhat bent over, but he had kindness that's sure about him. There seems always to be something smiling inside Papa. Mario was so busy feeding his cricket that he didn't see them when they came up the newsstand. So, said Mama, craning over the counter, "What now? I found a cricket," Mario exclaimed. He picked the insect up very gently between his thumb and forefinger and held him out for his parents to see. Mama studied the little black creature carefully. "It's a bug." She fondly threw it away. Mario's happiness fell in rains. "No, Mama," he said uneasily. "It's a special kind of bug. Crickets are good luck." "Good luck, eh?" Mama's voice had a way of sounding very dry when she didn't believe something. "Crickets are good luck, so I suppose ants are better luck. And cockroaches are the best luck of all. Throw it away. Please, Mama, I want to keep him for a pet. No bugs are coming to my house," said Mama. "We got ready with the screens of souls." He whistled to his friend. "They'll come from all over. We'll have a house full of crickets." "No, we don't," said Maria in a low voice. "I'll fix screens." But he knew it was no arguing with Mama. When she made up her mind, "You might well try to reason with English ate Albion Subway." "How's was selling tonight?" asked Papa. He was a peaceful man and always tried to head off arguments. Changing the subject was something he did very well. 15 papers and 4 magazines, said Maria, and Paul just bought Sunday Times. No one took Musical America or anything else nice. Papa was very proud that his newsstand carried all what he called the quarterly magazines. No, answered Mario. So you spend less time playing with crickets. You'll sell more papers, said Mama. Oh, now, Papa shooted her. Mario can't help if nobody buys. You can tell the temperature with crickets too, said Mario. You count the number of chirps in minutes, divide by 4, and add 40. They're very intelligent. Who need crickets thermometer? Said Mama. It's coming on summer. It's New York is hot. And how do you know much about crickets? Are you one? Jimmy Lebowski told me last summer, said Maria. Then give it to expect Jimmy Lebowski, said Mama. Bugs carry germs. He doesn't come in the house. Maria looked down at his new friend in the palm of his hand. Just for once he had been really happy. The cricket seemed to know that something was wrong. He jumped onto his shelf and crept into Matchbox. He could keep it here in the newsstand, suggested Papa. Mario jumped at that idea. Yes, and then he wouldn't have to come home. I could feed him here and leave him here, and you'd never have to see him, he said to Mama. And when you took the stand, I'll bring him with me. Mama paused. Cricker, she said sulkily. What do we want with the cricketer? What do you want with the newsstand? Said Papa. We got it. Let's keep it. There was something reasons but nice about Papa. You said I could have a dog, said Maria, but I never got it. And I never got a cat or a bird or anything. I want this cricket for my pet. It's yours then, said Papa. And when Papa spoke in certain quiet tone, that was all there was to it. Even Mama didn't dare disagree. She took a deep breath. Oh well, she said, and Maria knew it would be all right. Mama saying, oh well, was her way of giving in, but only in a trial he's come down with peculiar disease. Out he goes. Yes, Mama, anything you say, said Mario. Come on, Mario, Papa said. Help me close up. Mario held the matchbox up to his eye. He was sure the cricket looked much happier now that he could stay. Good night, he said. I'll be back in the morning. Talking to idiot, said Mama. I got cricketer for a son. Papa took one side of the cupboard to the newsstand, Maria the other, and together they fitted on. Papa locked in. As they were going downstairs to trains, Mario looked back over his shoulder. He could almost feel the cricket snatched away his matchbox bed in the darkness.